the next member of the tax team. So there were actually 2 seasons. The show has since been canceled. I was on the 2nd season. This is 7 of the 8 of us. This is actually after the first person, who was Natalie Poole, was already eliminated. So this is the 7 of us driving from, we did our first investigation. I was actually on the show I made it through 4 out of the 6 weeks, so I did not win. This episode, we did the first one at Waverly Hills in Louisville, Kentucky. This is when we were actually driving across the country from Louisville to West Virginia to investigate the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. From there, we drove up north to Hartford, Connecticut, and we investigated the Mark Twain House. From there, we drove down to Delaware, and we investigated Fort Delaware. I got eliminated at Fort Delaware. Everyone went on hiatus. They all came back. This was right after Easter, 2010. And then they came back and investigated Mansfield. And then their final finale was out at the Stanley Hotel in Colorado. So those were the 6 weeks. I was on the road with the crew for 8 weeks. Every episode took about 2 weeks to film. What's interesting about this, something I like to impress about me is, despite being on a show called Ghost Hunters Academy, I'm not new to the paranormal investigating field. I actually joined my first ghost hunting group, and I use the terms interchangeably. Some people prefer ghost hunter, some people prefer paranormal investigator. I choose not to get hung up on semantics, so I use them interchangeably. But I joined my first ghost hunting group in 1999, and that was actually back before any of the television shows. It was before the internet was what it is today. It was a time when I had no idea that there were groups out there that really did this. And I was just watching, it was around Halloween, I was watching a local ABC News broadcast, and they had a little segment about a local ghost group. And I was fascinated, went out and joined right away, and I've been into it ever since. I'm actually not somebody who, people never believe me, but I'm actually a very shy person. Naturally very shy and somewhat introverted. I've gotten better over the years, but still naturally my tendencies are kind of shy and withdrawn. And I'm not somebody who wants to be on television. Out of the 8 of us, I'm actually the only one who did not audition to be on the show. I don't watch much TV. I'd never seen the show. I was aware of it. I'd never seen it. I was just in New Jersey, assistant director of a local tax family team, and that was what I did. All for love of the game. And I'm just passionate about it. Did you have a question?
I just had an ask.
Oh, okay. If anybody has questions at any time, stop me and ask. But I was contacted by a talent scout from California who said, we are filming season 2 of this show. We think you'd be a great fit. We'd like you to audition. And I deleted it. I said, come on. Sometimes we get these emails. Sometimes there's a local group in town that wants to do a show and they need a local ghost group to come out and help. So I did film something for Comcast Cable, which I was on the cutting room floor. I filmed something for National Geographic Channel, which I was on for a little bit. They did some state penitentiary. And I also filmed the UK's Living Channel, did a show called Conversations with a Serial Killer. The Boston Strangler was actually held just overnight at a prison near me called Burlington County Prison Museum. And we did an episode there. I've never seen it. It shows in the UK. I'm probably on the cutting room floor. That's fine. So when I got this, I thought, come on. And then I contacted the other people in my group and found out that they hadn't gotten the email. It was just me. And I realized, okay, well, maybe this is real. So anyway, I started doing the audition. I went through the psych evaluations and did everything, jumped through the hoops, and was selected. So that's my background with TV and paranormal entertainment. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so come on. Tell you more about me, and then we're going to get into the topic at hand. No, you're not going to slow down. No matter how much Windows wants me to lay. So my little logo for myself is wife, mother, ghost hunter. And I am married. I have 2 kids. This is my older son, Chris. And the reason I talk about Chris is he's my oldest, he's 25. And so Chris was there when I first got into this stuff. He had, a cognizance of what I was doing. He's actually interested in the ghost stuff. As a kid, he thought it was kind of cool. He would take my digital camera, which back then I think I paid $500 for a 1 megapixel camera. Because it was top of the line. And he would take it out and take photos and he'd get all excited. He'd see boards and things like that. And he was really into that. But as he grew up, he got away from it. But the reason I talk about Chris is, Chris now, he actually just graduated with his master's degree in divinity. And he is a minister. And the reason I like to talk about Chris is because He's part of what I call building your team. You know, you don't have to be a member of a big group. When I was with my tax family group, we were a large group. It was anywhere from 25, 35 people at any given time. We were doing cases every weekend. We were busy all the time. I've since left that group and co-founded a group with my friends, and it's just 3 of us. You know, you don't have to be part of a big group. You don't have to be part of a group at all. But you really need to have a team. You need to have support. You need to have people you can go to if you have specific questions, something that maybe is a little bit above your head, something that you haven't dealt with before, something you just need more illumination on. And that's what's great about Chris, you know, with his religious studies. If I do have specific religious questions, because if you're dealing with clients, how many of you are part of an investigation group? Okay. Just a few of you. But so you know, if you're dealing with clients in a residential investigation, the religious beliefs of that family is of paramount importance. And what you do needs to be in accordance with what they believe. Not about what you believe. What you believe is important for your own protection, things like that. What they believe is important when it comes to a resolution of the case. So Chris is a really good resource for that. And that's Ethan. Ethan's my other boy. He's actually older now. He's 10 years old now. The reason I talk about Ethan, and it sort of pertains a bit more to our topic about psychic protection, is when I was filming a television show in 2010, Ethan was in first grade at the time. And up until that point, I was a work-at-home mom. So Ethan was, you know, my little sidekick, glued to my side with me day and night while my husband worked. And Ethan was right there with me. And I handled all the basic daily child care. I took him to school, I picked him up, I packed his lunch, I did all those things. While I was on the road, my poor husband got a crash course in, okay, honey, this is where you go to take him to school. You know, this is the door he comes out of. I mean, he's a great father, but those are things that were my domain. So now my husband was doing all these things, and he started packing his little lunchbox. My husband was packing the lunches and handling the feeding. And Ethan started to have behavioral problems. It's hot in here, isn't it? Is it possible to turn the air is on. Is it? Okay. Yeah. This is just me. Very shy, really. But the thing with Ethan and his issues when it comes to energy management and energy control is Ethan is, we found with his behavioral issues, he was suddenly acting out at school, he was becoming very peevish and belligerent, he would have violent outbursts. He's a very mild-mannered kid. He's now a black belt in karate, but he's the black belt who doesn't necessarily want to be aggressive on his spars. He's just a nice kid. This nice kid was ripping things off the walls at school and knocking over chairs and poking people with pencils and just out of control. And again, I'm on the road for 8 weeks. I'm in solid, just 8 weeks, couldn't come home, trying to focus on winning this competition. And my husband's just having all these problems. Finally, after months of trying to figure out what was wrong with him, we finally determined the sense of the red dye number 40. Have any of you heard of that? Yeah. I love coming when I hear when people have heard of it. And it's the reason that I don't care what topic I talk about. Every year I pick a different topic. Every year I will talk about red dye 40. Because it's the kind of thing, it may not apply to you now, you may not realize it applies. I just want it in the back of your head. Because if you have a child who suffers from this, they are suffering. They are miserable. It's kind of like women, and even men who know women, it's like having out-of-control PMS. You know you are being miserable, and you cannot stop it. It's like being on a train, and the brakes are gone, and there's nothing you can do, and it's just going to crash. And that's how these little kids feel if they're sensitive. So, kind of thing I like to talk about. My husband was feeding him foods that had red 40, things like Go-Gurt, certain cereals. He was having that little lunchbox was packed with this little delayed reaction hand grenade called Doritos, red dye 40. If Ethan has a single red M&M, we know it. The teacher knows it. Everybody knows it. So at 6 years old, Ethan learned to read food labels, and he knew if it had red 40, that makes me feel bad. I'm not eating it. The school had never heard of it. Now they're aware. So, something I like to talk about because it's important. So, why is psychic protection necessary? The reason I do this lecture is that, over the years I've done hundreds of investigations with lots of different people, and there have been times when I've gone out on investigations with people, and it becomes apparent to me that people are not using psychic protection at all. I mean, how many of you use any sort of protection if you do any sort of ghost hunts or ghost walks for your daily life or anything like that? Okay. And some of you might use it, you just don't necessarily know what I mean when I use the term, so we'll talk about that more. But it's important to be aware that there's things you can do to make you feel better. Have any of you ever gone on an investigation and then you wake up the next day and you feel like you have a hangover? by a truck, like you've been out partying all night. They call that a psychic hangover. And what that is it's when your energy system is overwhelmed by the energy. And I think this is all theory. I rarely speak in absolutes because, again, these aren't facts. This is a pseudoscience. We're giving our best guess. So these are my theories on it, and theories that I picked up. But we believe it's from your energy channels being overwhelmed by the energy, or else being blocked by foreign energy, and it can collapse. And it leaves you feeling like that lethargic, headache, sleepy, moody, things like that. One thing that can help, and actually what we're going to do before we even get into psychic protection in general, how many of you meditate? Any of you meditate at all? I don't meditate as much as I should. I'm very lazy about my self-care. I'm getting better. But I'm going to have you guys do a guided meditation. It's 5 minutes long. Very simple. It's a little video that I found on YouTube. You all can go out and get it for free on YouTube. If you really like it, you can actually buy a 20-minute version. I think the guy sells on the site. You can go to his website and buy it. But the reason I like to do this is it's to illustrate to you how simple it is to work a little bit of meditation into your daily life. It's not a big deal. It doesn't have to be structured. If you're somebody like me who has trouble stilling your mind, doing a guided one is easier. Something that guides you through it, it makes it simpler for you to focus and get the same result. In addition to being a paranormal investigator, I'm also a Reiki master, an angel therapy practitioner, and a psychic medium. So this particular meditation actually focuses on Reiki, it's basically clearing, aligning, balancing your energy centers, the chakras. So this is going to talk about your chakras. You can just sit comfortably. You can do it with your eyes open, eyes closed, up to you. It's 5 minutes long, and we're going to start it now. Everything's made of energy. It's sort of a basic science thing. Everything, not just the air and the sun, but every part of our body, the table, this microphone, it's all particles of energy. Surrounding you, you actually have, just like you have a physical body, the belief is that you also have this energy body that extends beyond your skin. So there's different layers. Basically, the point of this is the further you can extend that energy body, the more you're going to protect yourself from combating and being bombarded with foreign energy. Are any of you able to see auras? Yeah, I see them. I don't see them a lot. This is like so loud. This is from the meditation. Should I crank it down a little bit? I'm going to yell at everybody. I see them sometimes, and I actually never even saw auras until I started to take, I was taking a psychic development class. It's actually the first time I decided I was going to try mediumship. And I took a mediumship workshop, and we did a meditation similar to the one we just did, and I think that sort of set the stage for me. And my teacher also had these really big amethyst crystals around us. And that's known to help you against that third eye. So I don't know if it's coincidence. I'm just saying that those things happen. But I just noticed that she's teaching. I'm seeing behind her, it started to look like she was backlit. Some people can see colors. I generally don't see colors. I generally just see it as a clear light. There's a sort of like a white soft light. But sometimes I see colors when they're really in it. But that's the energy copy that you're seeing. The psychic protection methods we're going to talk about are ways that can help you extend that. Because again, the further you can extend it out, the further external energy is from you. It's just sort of like holding the crowd back. It's sort of crowd control and energetic level. As far as density of energy, when we talk about different spirits that you encounter, the belief is that when you're dealing with like angels, I don't know if any of you believe, I do personally, those are really like fluffy energy. And then human spirits tend to be denser, and then these humans are even denser. And then if you're dealing with more negative or lower energies, they're the densest of the energies. So when we talk about psychic protection and trying to protect that energy body that you have, the way I look at it is balanced psychic protection. I sort of have this triangle because I think it's a three-part thing. And I feel that it consists of defense, cleansing, and daily self-care. We talk about methods of psychic defense, shielding. That's the one that a lot of people do, and it's a real simple thing. Basically, the purpose of shielding and how you do it, it's your best defense against being overwhelmed by external energy. And it also develops two very important psychic skills. One of them is learning to manipulate energy using only the mind, which you can do. And the other one is learning how to solidify energy forms. And what shielding is you're basically envisioning yourself protected by some sort of external thing. Whether it's something as simple as I use a white light. I just picture myself surrounded by white light. It could be a bubble. And that's something I would use with my son. My son is somewhat sensitive, my little one Ethan, a little sensitive. And when he felt the need to be more empowered and more in control when he was younger, we would just have him picture himself in a bubble like Glinda the Good Witch. And that's something that tends to be easy for kids to picture. And any computer technicians in the room? I used to be one. It's been a long time. So you can envision yourself in white light, in a bubble, a column of light. Some people like to use armor. They picture themselves in a suit of armor. You can use mirrors, and it sort of reflects back energy. You can even incorporate other things. Like some people will have a sword in theirs. Again, this is all about visualization. Some people will have a sword. Some people, if you relate to a certain animal, you might have that totem animal in your shield with you. Again, it's all about what makes you protected and empowered. It's something that it's going to ring true for you. So my shield's not going to look like anything else. Does anybody shield at all already? Man, that's really good. Other things are prayers. And again, when I said before, religion of you, yourself as the investigator, is important when it comes to what's going to leave you feeling empowered and protected. So there's certain prayers, one that I love and one that, if you are somebody who deals with a lot of cases that maybe sometimes are a little bit negative, memorize the Archangel Michael prayer. Or St. Michael prayer. It's a good one to have that when things get a little crazy, bam, you just whip that out and you just recite it, and it's almost like, boom, hit a reset button. You know, it's very, very powerful. Another prayer that I use, and any of these, if anybody wants them, give me your email address, I'll send them to you. One that I use that is fantastic is called the Hedge prayer. Don't know how available it is on the internet. I do have the copies. The Hedge prayer, basically, if you think about a physical hedge around your home. If it's a windy day, there's a lot of litter about. The wind blows through the hedge. The litter gets stuck. And that's the principle behind the hedge prayer. You're having this hedge that sort of acts like a filter. It lets the good energy in, keeps the lower energies out. You can do a hedge prayer, and there's different ones you can read it. You can do a hedge around yourself. You can do a hedge around others. You can do a hedge around your home. I've used them all. Very, very, very effective. If you do use a hedge prayer, it's something that's not a one and done. You're going to have to refresh it. When things get particularly intense, it's been years since I've had intensity of energy of a spirit entity to use a hedge against. But when things would be really disruptive, I might do a hedge every day, refresh it every day. When things come back to a normal, I might do a hedge like once a month or every couple of weeks. The thing with the psychic protection that I like to stress is, I feel, and why I talk about the balance pot of the triangle, some people think of defense and they think defend. That puts you automatically in a negative stance. That makes you feel defensive. That makes you feel you have to be protected. That makes you feel like, oh my God, they're everywhere. Don't feel like that. Be empowered. Empowered psychic protection is much better than being overly defensive and paranoid. Because paranoia is just as dangerous as any lower entity you might encounter. You know, it's self-defeating. And it weakens your protection. So stand firm in your power. Be empowered. And you guys are dealing with residential cases. I mean, when I do go into a home that's really having disruptive or negative or violent or you believe in human entities, that's fine, but I personally do believe in human entities. When I have these cases, a lot of what I do, I don't go around, it's not because I'm coming in and splashing holy water around, and I'm not saying that holy water isn't effective. That's not what I'm there for. What I tend to do more is I can solve a lot of their problems just sitting at the kitchen table and having a conversation. It's almost like I'm doing almost like a spiritual counseling, spiritual life coaching almost. Talking to people about ways to be more empowered. If you're having a really active or intense haunting, think about what it is that you might be doing that's attracting them. What's going on in your life? What's going on in your relationships? What's the state of the physical state of your house? If you live in a home with a lot of clutter, I'm a clutterbug. I'm a hoarder. Terrible. Borderline hoarder. But, that clutter can hold energy. Clutter can also be an outward manifestation of a cluttered interior. So, it's just things like this. Opening the windows. Or somebody who always has the windows, the curtains drawn, and the house is all dark. Open those windows, open those curtains, let sunlight in. Buy some plants and stick them in corners. If you don't have a green thumb, buy a lucky bamboo, or, I don't believe in luck in particular, but a bamboo plant that you can stick in a corner that's hard to kill. Things that bring life and get that energy moving can really, really help. And I just went way off on a tangent. But I'm hoping it's helpful, and I feel that when things like that happens, because I'm guided to do so, maybe something resonates with somebody.
Yeah.
Are you raising your hand? Yeah, this is making sense to me.
Yeah, I'm definitely.
I thought you were raising. So other things, religious objects, like I say, things like holy water, things like metal. I really like blessed and exercise metals. I think they give me extra power, make me feel extra secure. Anointing oils, scapulars, things like that. Guardians. We talk about assistance from guardians. That is calling on your angels. Now, if you believe in angels, call on them. Guardian angels, dead loved ones, archangels. All of those are people that you can call on to assist you. The thing with angels, though, in particular, if you're somebody who likes to work with angels or think you would like their protection, generally they don't intervene unless you ask for help. In some cases they do, but a lot of that is them, again, my theory, a lot of them is respecting your free will to make choices and have experiences and have growth opportunities and learn and grow. So if you're not asking them to intervene and help you, they might not help. And then again, I use a lot of power cards because, again, I'm giving my idea. I don't expect people to believe what I do. And crystals. I have some crystals at my table. I actually make jewelry, and I use different gemstones that I think are protective. And Nora also has a ton of things at her table that also can be useful and protective if you're trying to protect a home. If you want to buy some stones and just keep them in your pocket, things like that can be very, very helpful. The thing with crystals, we don't really know why they can be effective in so many ways. We know that they're natural solids that are made from minerals that are formed in the Earth's surface, and that we believe that crystals, well, we know that crystals have the power to hold and amplify energy. Watches that have a crystal and the mechanism in there to make them tick and things like that, they're holding this energy. They've been used by healers for more than 5,000 years. And in addition to being able to amplify energy, they can also hold it and focus it and store it. So crystals can be really helpful. Some of the ones that we use for psychic protection are ones that, there tend to be the darker stones, but not always. But if you have like a black or a dark gray stone, it's generally one that's going to be protective. And we think that they have the ability to transmute negative energy. So kind of change that negative energy into positive. These are things like hematite, obsidian, tourmaline, jet, amber, diamonds. Any ladies that are diamond people? Yeah, a little bit of protection. Pageanteer, smoky quartz, clear quartz, tiger's eye. Tiger's eye is one a lot of men like. It's a really nice, powerful stone. It also gives you strength and protection and courage. Tiger's eye is a wonderful stone. Dalmatian stone, jasper, flint, pyrite, topaz, and angel aura quartz. Does anybody have any questions about crystals? Okay, so now we're past the protection and the defense. We're going to talk about cleansing. Cleansing, basically you're clearing those energy channels and allowing them to function normally again. Just returning to a sense of a state of homeostasis. It's good, not just, again, this isn't just about ghost hunters. If you work, I used to work on a cubicle farm when I was in tech support. And, if you work in a cubicle and you've got all that contained energy and people gossiping over your cubicle wall and, there's always these problems. I was in customer service. My first career, though, was actually as a nurse. I was a psychic nurse. I'm not psychic. I was a psychic nurse masquerading as a psychiatric nurse. Worked at the State Psychiatric Hospital in New Jersey. And then I left that field and I went into computer technician. Worked for ExxonMobil Oil Corporation, and then I worked for a law firm in Philly. So it's funny because I did a movie premiere a couple weeks ago. I was asked to be in this movie they were doing called Surviving Evidence. And it's about the true story of a very violent haunting that took place in New York. And I was not a participant in the haunting, but I was one of the people, me and Ron Cano and Jim Chin and, just a host of people they had as sort of, again, not experts, but we were giving our opinions on different topics about ghosts and hauntings. And one of the questions that somebody asked while we were there, which is it right down there? So if it's important, I'll get back to it. I forgot. Sorry, guys. All right, so we're going to talk about psychic cleansing. What's important about psychic cleansing is it's not just when you're working and things, but it's when you come home. I'm sorry, that was the question she asked. They asked about coming out as a ghost hunter. You know what I mean? Like if you're somebody who's kind of psychic, or you're somebody who hunts ghosts and likes to sit in the dark for 3 hours and wait for something to happen, it usually doesn't. Her question was, how do you tell people? And do you ever find yourself having to come out? And I said, the jobs that I've worked were jobs where it's sort of counterproductive to tell people that you're a ghost hunter. They were very serious environments where people just did not want to do that. It would have been easier to just restart at the beginning, huh? So when we talk about psychic cleansing, it's very, very simple. It could be something as simple as coming home, which I like to do. I come in from a ghost investigation, I'll take a shower, which water is very cleansing, and I'll use a sea salt scrub. Simple. If you're somebody who likes to take a bath, you can put some salt in your bath. The thing with the salt, sodium chloride absorbs and stabilizes energy, so it can absorb that negative energy. Rock and sea salt is more efficient because it has the larger crystals, but you can use table salt if you need to. And since it absorbs energy, it also absorbs psychic dirt. So that's why we believe that sea salt is useful. And this is, again, something that's been used for hundreds of years. They've been using salt in protective ways. Smudging. Do any of you smudge? Yeah, smudging's sweet. That's good stuff. The easiest way to smudge, basically, if you've ever seen it, it's a Native American practice. So a lot of times you'll see them smudge in ceremonial ways, but it's something that we all can do. You can go out to, I think even Whole Foods now sells sage sticks. White sage is one that's very common, but it doesn't have to be. I actually have a censer that I use I'll use everything from frankincense and myrrh to copal to lavender to all different types of aromatic herbs. And what it is you are burning these herbs, and what they believe is a sacred smoke, and you're passing objects through it, or you're using it to cleanse an entire environment. Smudging is not a magic wand. It doesn't mean you can go in the house and smudge away ghosts. My belief is that human spirits have free will in death as they did in life. You can't force them to leave an environment. What you can do, and what the approach that I take when I deal with clients, is we either make the environment very positive, and it might encourage a more negative person, a more negative dead person, to just move on. Because if you think about it, if you have somebody in your family or somebody in your neighborhood, like the miserable guy who yells at the kids for being on his lawn all the time, the last thing he wants is the shiny, happy, positive family moving in. He wants miserable people in there that he can give crap all the time. He doesn't want strong, positive, empowered people. He doesn't want a sunny, happy place. So if you can make that environment more positive with things like smudging, things like using music. Doesn't have to be, anything. It doesn't have to be the monks singing and things like that. Any music that uplifts your energy and makes you feel good and you find empowering, play music. Light candles. Whether you're using candles that are protective candles, whether you just use white candles, whether you use any candle that you like that's a nice, pleasant fragrance. Things like that can make your environment more positive, can make you feel more empowered, and can encourage these spirits to move on. So that's one of the approaches that we take when we're helping clients deal with a disruptive haunting. Smudging is a big part of that. My husband, poor guy was a skeptic before he met me, and I'm sure he would love to still be a skeptic, but eventually even he had to say, okay, there's stuff going on. And when my little one has nightmares, which he does on occasion, he's usually the one who comes to me and says, maybe you should smudge. And it's funny how doing that little smudging, again, it's not a magic wand, but smudging can give us peace for that person. It's the kind of thing, again, like the Hedgehog, you just need to do it, refresh it, do it as you need it. If things are kind of crazy, I might smudge a couple times a week. When things are normal, I might not smudge for months. It's just more of that sort of routine that you can fall into. Reiki, again, Reiki is an ancient method of hands-on healing. When I personally do it, though, I don't generally do hands-on. I'll hover right above the skin. It's more effective for me. I also can do it long distance, so I can Reiki people anywhere in the world from my little house in New Jersey. And just like that meditation we did, it's about getting those chakras cleared and balanced and letting that energy flow. Because the principle is that your body has the ability to heal itself if you can return it to that sense of balance and lets it function the way it should. And it can help. Reiki's helpful for physical issues, mental issues, emotional issues. And so as far as protection, you can Reiki yourself, and that's very cleansing. And scraping. This is actually a physical thing. This is really cool with kids too. What scraping is you're basically, again, revisioning that energy body. Scraping is you just put your hand in the sea, and you're going to just literally scrape and drop it into the ground, and the ground will absorb it and recycle the energy. So you just scrape the arms, you scrape the legs, you scrape the feet, drop that energy. Real simple. But that's something I'll have with my son do, because again, it's empowering, and it gets him learning to be responsible for his own energy management. Anybody have any questions about any of this so far? Oh, you guys are killing me. I love questions. Love questions. Okay. So we're going to talk about the last portion, which is psychic hygiene. And that's the third leg of the triangle. Psychic hygiene, we're basically talking about the daily practices or the routine practices that you can do to keep yourself optimally healthy and balanced as far as your energy body is concerned. Meditation, again, is an important one. Ideally, meditate 5 minutes a day. Do it in the morning before you get out of bed. Do it before you fall asleep at night. I am so lazy about doing my meditation. But it's funny, a friend of mine says that, she's a very talented medium, and she says, lots of people come to me and they ask, well, how can I become more psychic? How can I better control my abilities? How can I do this, that, and the other thing? And her answer for each thing is meditate, 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 meditate. Very, very important. Again, with anything I tell you, you know what? If it doesn't sound right, or it sounds like, maybe, try for a week, see what happens. Form your own conclusions and see if it works. But meditation is very helpful. Grounding. Grounding is being fully present in your body. It's cleansing and releasing all the energy. And it's making you feel, you're like feeling the ground beneath your feet, you're feeling the chair beneath your legs. If you're somebody, have any of you ever been driving and you go 10 miles down the road and you look down and you look around and you don't even remember driving? I mean, that's sort of being ungrounded. You're floating. You're like an untethered balloon. So being grounded is being fully present. Being ungrounded can leave you feeling spaced out, dizzy, nervous, or with vertigo. And some methods of grounding is real simple. It's as simple as visualization. Something like envisioning tree roots growing out of your feet and into the ground. It's just that simple. You can do something like tree hugging, where you go outside and literally grab a tree, or lean your hand on the tree, and you're going to let that tree absorb that energy and recycle it. Just like they can recycle the carbon dioxide and things like that and make oxygen for us. They can absorb that energy. Growing roots we talked about. Sinking into soft soil, you go outside barefoot, get in the grass. Barefoot or even with shoes if need be, but get out into the grass. If you're ever on an investigation and somebody starts having an issue, or they're getting, out of focus, or they're start crying, or they're like taking on emotions that are not their own, which some people who are very empathic will do and not even realize that they're suddenly crying. It's not because they feel it, they're picking up on the spirit. Get them outside, get them in the ground, let them hold a tree. Things like that can be just enough to sort of get that energy overloaded, get that overload, sort of sloughed off and get them back to normal. And diet, exercise, and sleep are pretty much self-explanatory. And cord cutting. Cord cutting is interesting. It's something I like to talk about because a lot of people deal with this and they don't realize that they do. Think about people in your life, whether it's family, hopefully not, but sometimes it is, or people you work with or friends who are just such a downer. It's somebody who is miserable. They come over to you and you're feeling pretty good. Hey, it's Monday, but I'm alive. It's feeling good. Sunshine, birds are singing. You come into work and they just come over to you and they just dump. And then they walk away feeling great and now you feel like crap. It's like, these are people that we call, and it sounds like a pejorative, it's not meant to be, but we call them psychic vampires. These are people who don't use any any sort of energy management, whether it's conscious or unconscious. Some people don't need to consciously do these things. They just are positive, happy, grounded people. They're living good lives. They're in a supported environment. They don't feel the need to do this. They feel great. But some of us, like me, I'm surrounded by all kinds of things, just with the ghost stuff and working in customer service for years, so I have to make an effort. But these are people who are just naturally low energy. So rather than manage their own energy the proper way, they come and they suck it off of you, sap you, and leave you feeling depleted. And it's terrible. And the thing is with energy, your energy body we talked about, you can be low energy because you have rips and tears and holes in your aura, just because you're just unhealthy, you're negative and things like that. So what you can do with these psychic vampires, in addition to using your shielding to block them from even getting all that crap and getting that close to you, is you can cut cords. And when we have fear-based attachments to a person or an object, we form etheric leashes to keep that person or object from leaking or changing. If any of you have ever had a breakup that just seemed like it would never end, you keep going back, you're still holding on, it just won't let go, you won't move on, you feel stuck, and cut that cord. And cutting cords is as simple. Basically, these cords are hollow tubes between us that the energy goes back and forth. And if you work with people who are needy, if you work like in nursing, people need things from you, they form these cords. You can't see them, they're there. So what you can do is just, the hygiene is cut those cords. I shouldn't think of the other sides, but just in case. Cut those cords. And the way you can do it is something as simple as visualization. Visualize a sword cutting a cord. If you work with angels, you can ask the angels to cut the cords. Simple stuff, but that's the kind of thing you need to do with those energy vampires as well. Just cut those cords and send love back to the cord and let them go. It's all about releasing. Okay, questions? Come on, somebody's got to think a question. Anything. It can be about what we talked about, and I only have a couple minutes, but I'd love to get a couple. Ghosts and honeys in general, psychic protection, or Stephen Tate I really like whatever. Jake's really mean, like he doesn't do it. Yes?
The meditation, excuse me, the meditation exercise put us all to sleep.
Oh no! I should have done that at the end, huh? It's funny because when I do the meditations, I feel great after. I actually feel energized. And the thing with proper energy management is when we talk about energy vampires, the goal is that you can draw energy from the universal life energy. If there's energy that we all have access to, whether you believe it's from the divine or whether you think you're tapping into, but we all can tap into energy naturally. We don't have to suck it off of other people. So when you meditate and things and you get that energy flowing properly, you're energized. You're boosting your own energy levels. So you should feel great about it. I'm sorry if that was for you. Anything else? Yes.
When you were being interviewed for the show,
yes.
Did they consider as a bad thing that you had psychic abilities?
They never asked me.
Oh, I can tell they're not into that so much.
It's funny because season 1, the people that they claimed to be psychic really got hammered, in different ways, or they were grilled extra hard, or they were given extra tests and things like that, and they never asked me about it. So aren't they surprised now? It's funny because I actually did get sort of heat one day because I mentioned feeling. And they didn't like that. We should be making our decisions not based on how you feel. And I'm thinking, when I go on an investigation, I'm not a gadget girl. And I have no problem with people that like to get the scientific approach. That's great. I love having those people in the vicinity. Because you know what? I've got my camera, I've got my voice recorder, maybe a millimeter, because I do want to know, especially in a home, if there's high EMFs that are causing a problem. So I think it's important to be able to quantify what the EMF level is. But as far as going on an investigation, I use my senses. Because I always say, when a client calls me, and everything I do is free, I help people for free. If you ever need consulting, you have questions, find me on Facebook, it's the easiest way. But I don't charge for any of this. But if I go in the house to help somebody, they're not saying, Roz, I got this 0.2 spike or milligal spike on my EMF meter, and that's how I knew something was going on. No, they're telling me, I saw this, I heard this, I felt this, I smelled this. So that's what I'm going into experience. I'm going to go and get into their space and try and experience what they're experiencing with my most important tool, which is my body and my senses.
Right.
And I'm time for one more. Yes?
Do you have a favorite?
What's that?
Do you have a
experience. As far as on the show, my favorite place that we investigated was the Mark Twain house. Not because of whatever paranormal happened to him. I mean, I have horrible memories, so honestly, I don't remember what we experienced there. But just to have unrestricted access to the house where Mark Twain lived and raised his family and wrote Huckleberry Finn. And I mean, to me, I'm a writer, so for me, that was just, that was dream come true. Just experiences in general, though. Any experience, it's funny, I'm not a big ghost story person unless there's an emotional thing to it. Like if you sit down and you're telling me something that happened to you, I'm more interested in the connection and how it affected you and the whatever emotional response you had and how I can connect and maybe I can be a part of that experience that you had by maybe giving advice or guiding or helping. So that's what I like to do. I like to help people. So that's what I'm doing the most. Okay, I know I've ran over by a couple of minutes. Thank you guys for your time. If you have any other questions,